Attention gamers, just about 3 years ago one of my favorite league creators, Pianta, outlined a game where he accidentally stumbled into a Necrophiliacs Anonymous meeting where all 4 of his teammates had a fixation with death to the point where Rift Alexa needed a cough drop from the rapid fire reading off of friendly fatalities, to which he proposed the question,
is this game winnable?
And spoiler alert, it was. But there are a few factors worth revisiting in the 4 straight minutes of euphoria that he provided us in that video. First, he was playing Garen, the build whatever you want, yell the name of your hometown at people proudly and collect LP monstrosity who literally can just spin to win. Some may even say wins on this champ are guaranteed. But other things have also changed since this game, like the league community growing exponentially on the toxic dying dickwad mental metric. So today I wanted to provide a sequel to his original masterpiece, knowing I can't fill the shoes of his superb satire, introducing my team, with this Ashe leading the mob of piece of piss pitchforkers and highlighting that my Tristana mid-pick already lost us the silver elo game before it started, as she was the kind of person to find a problem with everyone around her except herself when there were obvious deficiencies present. My support held the current ranked world record for most deaths in a game but is constantly trying to break it again. Steel tights up top couldn't jerk a ween if it was erect and spasming in his hand, and according to our jungler, they were duo and ults were reserved for him, but they too were supposedly smurfing on champs that could quote-unquote carry even AFK players, which doesn't align with me being 20-3 yet my team still losing in kills, to which the Ashtray was adamant about it all still being my fault.
Is this game winnable?
Or are you better off staying away from the league that comes with it, and playing Raid
Shadow Legends?
You see, everything is winnable when you command chicks dressed like they are getting Lord of the Rings cosplay content for their OnlyFans pages, as when she does die because her teammates sucked, she can actually just swap them out for better ones who will end up carrying her dead ass instead. Wouldn't that be nice to have in league? And if you always have that same feeding Freddy, you can just put the pipsqueak in timeout for a bit, come back, and voila, he's now stronger and reformed. You'd be shocked what you learn by using my link and giving these little guys like Quilt Man and his oversized deformed fork a chance, because it turns out they all have deep dark backstories, like how he came from the Banner Lords, the old medieval town bullies who took the lands ruled by creatures who look like Lizard Larry here a long time ago, but now all the kingdom building Pirates of the Caribbean-esque dressed women, and knowledge went to their head, causing quite the family feud to spark. How is that for some deep lore, Annie?
I burned mommy's house down.
Rav, that's not exactly what happened with the banner.
So take those losers in your lineup, put them through the reformer a few times, build them up, teach them the ways, and experience all the new updates in the game with them, like meeting the 11 new champions, completing 200 new missions to unlock a legendary champ, and battling through new levels added to every dungeon, and that'll surely distract him from his f***ed up family issues at home. So use my link in the description to download Raid, support the channel, and get to know these champs and their troubled pasts. And speaking of troubled pasts, let's get into the questionable winnability at hand, where, as I mentioned, against the Council of Cancer acting as my teammates, I was playing the Missile Midget, but luckily I was against the sibling of He Who Says Sodaki, which from my experience is typically an easy to make recipe for a free first blood yippity, to which the team Ashtray of Toxins is already making up idiotic excuses for why she could never be wrong about her pre-game flame. But like your typical league twat marinated in gamer girl bath water like a cockalorum chia pet of dickness, she was clearly just going to flame whatever was put in front of her, all while my top and jungler were tripping over each other's ineptitude. But luckily our team's best player was still their team's winshitter, who was busy creating a pass that he won't be able to escape from. And I am not sure what this was all about, but the wife who was left at home was clearly not happy about it. So checking in on the mortuary magnet morgue herself, and you just know she's irritated, like she didn't travel to 14 different David's bridals to find this velvet prom gown to not get fucked on her big night. So the second she gets a hold of that sex selfie tweet slut, she makes her move, and needless to say she was successful in getting the big banana bong schlong that night. That said, I'm chillin' like a wind twin killin' villain mid with farm on par with, I'd say, a severely drunk Bjergsen, and while the tryst mid might not tickle my tit liquor teammates' fancies, I found that if you blast some DJ Casper and nail the combo, you can achieve 2 hops this time, as my sus port makes her presence felt. But it was time for me to hit the shops with enough killer cash to buy a Louis Vuitton branded Kraken Slayer, which also meant it was time for the bitch bride to head home and path worse than a recalled GPS, which led to a situation that exposed the fact that she didn't finish the Morgana champion spotlight. But like her dad always said, when in danger run toward a dead end. For context, her dad was murdered a while back and it turns out the apple doesn't fall far from the dumb dead tree. But some anal inception occurs as the Shen crawls out of the ass of he who crawls into asses, and of course I wasn't going to miss out on seeing that shithole spectacle, and at this point you are probably thinking, this game is definitely winnable. And I do have to agree. At this point in the game I was calling up Britney Spears asking if she was down to clown with anyone who was fed or if it was strictly K's only, but this was all just the quiet before the storm. A storm that was about to put the ass in Demacia, and I guess Shen didn't get the memo that winning is preceded by spinning for Giant Gustav here, so he gets the Zeustus before his butt buddy can show up. And since we're all licensed backseat drivers here, I figured it would be fun to hindsight 2020 the shit out of this Smurf Ash's next reaction to see what prompted all of the caps to come out in chat, and after further investigation, it looks like some straight line pathing revealed that their jungler was in the area, prompting a panic spell shield to come out, and I feel like a real Smurf would know not to test a man going through nicotine withdrawals, especially when both his AA sponsors are around. And while I agree Morg might have arrested the wrong guy, I'm gonna say Toxic Dick Tits here was just as much in the wrong. So the bride bails from that verbal abuse and no one can blame her for that. But I can blame her for running straight into this twirling titan, not realizing that our top laner is missing the same exact amount of chromosomes as her, so despite a tie-up light as tights on fire go gold, so she isn't a gold supplier combo. Garen calls upon the almighty playbook entitled 200 Years, and you are probably thinking that the execution by Excalibur was followed by Shen making it worth then. But Garen promptly made like a profanity censor and got the f*** out of there. Checking in on the infallible Ashhole, who was self-certified to pick apart everyone else around her without realizing that one-on-one interactions with this Graves would port her to her own. And it would be hypocritical for me to not point out my own mistakes as well, like this decision that was so bad you would think the balanced team at Riot themselves made it, but when you are this fed I guess you just buckle up, nod to the state trooper you just sped past and say we. Oh, and it's also worth noting that it was at this moment when we discovered that Shen's ult would only work on our jungler because they are duo, and that this fucked up stepsister stuck in a washing machine type of relationship they had could survive even an AFK due to them smurfing on quote unquote OP champs. That said, if I wanted to hear from an asshole I would fart, as I was more interested in warning the ashtray that I literally just saw 3 of them down there, and I don't know if something got lost in translation or if she was just being a fart factory slug slime sack of rat guts and cat vomit scum of the earth degen piece of filth's belly button lint, but it's worth noting that she did indeed run into the group that I had warned her about. Meanwhile, Morg was performing what naive Rift dwellers would call a reportable and punishable offense, but any veteran would know she's probably played 50 more games exactly like this one since then, untouched and undisciplined like a rich bitch's insubordinate chihuahua. And I don't want to provide too much hard evidence and make the fact that this was not punished even more cringeworthy, considering you can op.gg this chick and see she's still been alive and well playing every day since this, but she was indeed comboing the intentional feed. That said, I was deep in the woods looking to channel my inner ninja and tell kids to get good, but when it turned into a whole party I made like a frat boy and banged the easy ones before peacing out. And some people may say I baited my teammate in here, but I'd like to think I have the intuition to know that 4 enemies in a small area is not where we should be, and besides he was the one who decided to stick around so long. You would think the P-Hub video of him getting gangbanged would monetize better if he dragged it on, so him and his douche duo get got, while the whole time this Ash is posted up like a fucking Bloons tower defense turret, not understanding that there's only one exit to her like auto attack overlook, and it's not one she's gonna wanna take. To which this Morg is like, there's no better time to solo run into a fight than 15 seconds after all your teammates died, so she shows how it can't be classified as intentional feeding if she uses her abilities before dying.
Is this game winnable?
And while there might be some speculation over the average intelligence of my teammates, I believe the following footage confirms they all did complete kindergarten, as the single file line go one at a time strategy was executed to damn near perfection here. And this brings us to the typical white hat warrior Mr. I just mute people protagonist that now wants to communicate the plan but can't, and my reply is such an obvious statement I might as well have said dogs are better than cats, and I guess my words were just like cute decorations in the bottom left of their screens because this was their response to my strategy. I guess Morg's wasn't exactly a fight, but it was indeed useless, but I definitely didn't get through to the others either. And of course the great orator Ash has to shift blame, but for my entire childhood I told my mom I wouldn't jump off bridges just because my friends did, so why the hell would I commit suicide just because some toxic inting idiots did? Then I got hopeful when the enemy's allowance got cut off, but it only lasted for a minute, and before you know it she was back and deader than ever, continuing things right where she left off. So with fear of getting flamed for another fight absence, I tried my best to contribute to this one before getting fruit ninja'd and Sona slapped, and I guess I was hogging the team's damage stick that whole fight because nothing else was accomplished before or after my death. Enter unwelcome Ash opinion number 99, as I could eat a bowl of alphabet soup and shit out a smarter statement than that, especially considering I had two competing theories myself for why we weren't winning this game, and I'm not a betting man, but I felt pretty confident in the evidence I had to support these beliefs. And while I can't argue with her that a mid-diff was indeed present, there were other diffs that I was slightly more concerned about. Not to mention our morgue was nominated for Waitress of the Year due to how fast she was able to ensure that everyone around her was made and kept real fed at all times. Like someone asked this chick's parents what sex position she was conceived in so that they can outlaw it for the sake of humanity. But I guess one perk to the walking ATM being on our team was that pretty much every kill I was getting was a shutdown, and considering this wingding was worth about as much as a large cannon minion at this point, the gold transfer to me was almost 900 IQ considering I was getting 1000 gold for every kill. And ignoring the fact that I kept typoing the word shitbot when I meant sitbot even though both statements were applicable, I was trying to make the best with this steady source of shutdown income. Remember that Graves I just killed a minute ago? Yeah, he was worth shut down again, and you can probably speculate how that was possible. Okay, I will spoil the answer. It's because our smurfing bag of douche was always in a worse position than a bacon sandwich at a bar mitzvah, so she was always forced to watch the fights on grayscale as I sweated my little rabbit dick off trying my best to not miss position, knowing that 110% of my team's gold and damage was with me. And her response to me wiping their entire team was correct to go to Baron, but like a virgin touched for the very first time, she busted her nut way too early, leaving me once again in a situation where I have to clock in as the custodian and try to clean up the mess. But the problem with this entire game being on my shoulders, ended up being my shoulders. You see, a game like this might have been winnable for Pianta, but at the end of the day, I am hard stuck Rav for a reason, and it was only a matter of time before I fucked up and lost us the game. So here were the final standings, and if you want to see this entire game including my live reaction and commentary as it happened, the full unedited game is live on my Boosted Betty channel. Rav out.
Fuck with Rabby boy, I'm in your crib with the blappy boy. Talk to me slick and I'm popping your pappy. If happy talk back, then I'm taking your Grammy, and boy oh boy I'll make her happy.